on that note,
Yep.
why isn't it the Canadian real estate show? Because
Oh,
this has
right
come
now,
up a few times.
Canada needs more voices of reason. And what I like about you guys, and I don't do a ton of these shows because every once in a while, like you get somebody who's got um, some sort of motivation, and they're motivated to sell houses in their market, and they're pumping their market. And you guys are just like straight up honest about the market, and the whole country needs more of what you guys are talking about. But you guys with the amount of knowledge you have, and the honesty and integrity that you guys have, you could do this show across Canada. The country needs more guys like you talking about what's going on across the country, not just in your market.
But are you saying like an Indian person speaking English, or are you like a Russian
forget
person?
about it. You've just
English?
complicated the crap out of this question, and I'm no longer interested in the answer.
Yeah, I wasn't so interested in the question.
Me neither. That's okay.
No, it wasn't very interesting. Why are you all dressed up? You got showings today?
I got showings after this. Yeah.
Are you going to be a realtor today?
I'm going to be a realtor for a change on a Sunday. Yeah. I literally work every single day. There is no days I don't work.
Oh, there's no days.
That's what you do. There is no
Especially as a realtor, it's like retail on steroids. I guess in a good market.
Even like, it's just like, I'm like 14 years going straight working every single day,
I mean, it's not the same kind of work as most people do, like 9 to 5,
Absolutely.
sitting in an office.
Checking in and sitting at the same chair. I'm just sometimes
work is golf, right?
Sometimes work is golf.
Sometimes work is golf. Sometimes work is lunch. A lot of times work is breakfast.
Frank always says something that's so funny because this is so true. So the real estate agent's got an appointment at 7:00 at night. Did I tell you this already? No.
I think so, maybe.
All day long, he's thinking, man, I got that appointment at 7:00. What are the people going to say? What are they going to do? Are they going to buy? Are they going to sell? Is it still going to be available? What am I going to wear? What time do I need to leave? Oh man, that appointment at 7:00, and all day goes by. And finally the 7:00 appointment comes, right? It takes 15 minutes. They go in, they go out, they exit, they go home, and they're like, oh honey, I had such a busy day today. It was just intense. I had this appointment at 7:00, and wow, it was just wow. All day long, I was thinking about that thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I'm gonna get it.
They're busy when they're really not that busy.
I think I'm gonna get it. This one looks good. Yeah. This one looks good.
That's the secret.
It's true though, but I mean,
live in the moment. Stay present.
But you're on call 24/7, and you're ready to work 24/7, and you're probably thinking about work
definitely
24/7. Right?
But I challenge you to call me at 3:00 in the morning to see if how on call I really am.
Right.
Yeah, I challenge you because it's not that on call.
No, I don't. And listen, you're not performing surgery here.
Yeah.
What happens at 3 a.m? I
guess there's something on my voicemail that says that I'll get back to them, like in the morning when I'm awake.
I'll tell you, when I was a general contractor and we were busy, man, we had a lot of projects. Often people were sending messages and emails and calls at 3 a.m.
Really?
Yeah, because people are sitting there freaking about money and like all the problems in their house and like what their wife wants or what
the toilet's not flushing. They're like, Daryl, this is unacceptable.
No, it's just one thing after the other. Like while they're in construction, it's a bloody disaster.
Yeah.
But anyways, here we are once again on a Sunday. Welcome to the Toronto Real Estate Show. Mr. TK, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are.
I don't think we have anybody in different time zones listening to us, Daryl.
You would be so surprised at where people are actually listening to this thing. It's ridiculous. We've got people in Nigeria, at least running through VPNs through Nigeria.
Posting in the comments. I love it. And you're right. You never know when somebody's listening. So,
or why.
Happy whatever time it is where you are right now, Day.
That's right. Absolutely. Welcome to the show. Do us a favor. Hit that button, that like button, that subscribe button, and give us a comment. Preferably, not telling me I'm Satan reincarnate. That is preferable. TK doesn't like
I
being
don't
called a
mind it
racist.
when they say those things, just for the record.
Right.
It's
If it's
not
me,
like it doesn't ruin my day or anything. That's all I'll say.
no,
Yeah.
no.
But
Some of
Daryl
them,
is not Satan.
I'm
And
I'm a little sensitive when called
Yeah.
Satan.
Yeah, he's not Satan. I've checked. I asked around.
I have another one fooled. Hey, we have a great guest lined up for today. Are you
We
ready?
do.
Are
Absolutely.
you ready?
I'm born ready.
I think he's ready. Here we go. We're going to let him in. Oh, hang on a sec.
Trick.
I'm not sure about scheduling again. Did we do this right? There we go. Hello. Can you hear us?
I get great background though.
Yes.
There we go.
This is a professional looking gentleman. That is for damn sure.
Got a fresh haircut just for you guys.
That's amazing.
It looks great. Oh, I'm so glad that you did that. Okay. So first of all, welcome to the show. Nolan Matthias
Yep.
Thank you.
Mortgage 360, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are jumping right into it. You don't mess around, hey?
We don't mess around.
No
TK
way.
is a realtor, man. This guy's on a tight schedule. He's got houses to show and contracts to write and lunches to get to.
I got to get some fridge magnets printed today. You know, I got lots of stuff on the go, right? Got to get those fridge magnets going.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Well,
welcome to the
Nolan.
show.
We appreciate you. I'd say you know, you are a professional YouTuber. Out of the quality of guests that we get, we are the antithesis of professional YouTubers, but you are the professional YouTuber, and we've seen a lot of your content over the last
Very polished.
couple of years, I guess, since we've started our podcast. So we're happy to have you on today. And
Big fan.
I know some of our
Big fan.
listeners and you know, viewers also subscribe to you, and I'm
They
sure they're going to
must.
appreciate the show today for sure.
Oh yeah, we are
Thanks for having me.
excited to have you. And you know, a little perspective from Calgary, which we haven't had on the show as of yet, have we? I don't think we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Anyway, we like Calgary.
Doesn't
My sister
matter.
lives in Calgary. Calgary's a good place.
Does she? I didn't know that.
Yeah. My oldest one. Yeah, we're happy. We're happy with Calgary. What's going on in Calgary? They're happy right now. Those oil prices are woo. They're loving it.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. It's in the market's crazy. Oil prices contribute to it. Ontario buyers contribute to it. You guys need to stay home.
We're staying home. We're sending our money over there.
Yeah, foolishly too, overpaying for everything.
Foolishly, yeah.
I mean, I don't want to jump right into all the economic stuff, but man, you know, there's talks about markets that are booming markets, bubbles, all that stuff. You know, Toronto, Vancouver, there's an argument that there's some sort of bubble at some point brewing. But what people don't realize is Calgary's never going to have a bubble. It's a cyclical market. It is guaranteed up and down, and it moves with oil prices. So the big fear I have for people who are coming out here spending their money is they don't realize it's a cyclical market. And when this oil thing turns, as it always does, you know, it's going to be a little different than just kind of riding through a dip in Ontario or BC. It's going to be, there's going to be some value decrease there. And I don't think people who are buying from outside the market are going to necessarily expect that.
What kind of vacancy rate kind of projection do you do if you are investing over there? Like when things are bad, how empty are things?
Well, I mean, it depends, right? Like if you're talking commercial, it's really empty right now, and has been since 2014. If you're talking residential, it's never gotten really bad, but you know, for us, 8% vacancies awful. Typically it runs around 4% in the next year or two. That's where it'll probably be. And it'll be a really good market for a couple of years, but then oil's going to go down at some point, guaranteed.
What we're seeing over here, Nolan, is we're getting Ontario realtors packaging Calgary projects and selling them to Ontario buyers because it looks awesome, right? The 300,000 starting price, or the, you know, whatever the feature is that we take, you know, very seriously here in Ontario. And we think, oh, wow, that's so amazing. And I have no idea where these places are in Alberta. And I know that 99% of the buyers don't know either. All they hear is, you know, 30 minutes to Calgary or whatever. It could be like the worst town that's never had a successful development ever, but that's what they're buying. right?
Well, and I hope those realtors are all watching your show, and they all do watch your show, because they're about to get themselves in trouble. The Real Estate Council of Alberta just put out a bulletin talking about specifically that if you're in Ontario or an outside of the Alberta realtor and you're not licensed in Alberta and you're marketing Alberta product, they'd literally put out a bulletin talking about just this,
Really?
that you're operating without a license in Alberta, and they're watching those guys. So just word of warning to those realtors that are out there in Ontario doing that. I don't care whether you do it one way or the other, but just so you know, our regulators watching you.
So you need a partner out in Calgary, basically.
Yeah, and it's not just needing a partner, it's the activities, right? So it's the things that you do. So if you're marketing that property, even though you may have a partner in Calgary, you're probably pushing the lines and the boundaries of what you can do with a license, right?
Okay.
Yeah. No go. You're soliciting. It's like selling securities or anything else like that. You know, you can't be out there promoting it, saying that you're doing something and taking people's money. Right?
Exactly. I mean, and we took it seriously when my YouTube channel blew up a year ago. I got licensed in Ontario. I got licensed in BC. I got licensed in Saskatchewan because we had to, and we just don't operate in provinces that aren't those provinces.
Right.
You know, I can't dictate where YouTube pushes my videos, so people in Quebec see it and New Brunswick and everything else. But you know, you just don't operate in those provinces, because as things get busier, those regulators get more excited, and you know, bad things happen.
Yeah. The other issue too is, think about it, because you can get a mortgage for someone in any province because it's federally regulated, the mortgage industry. Is that right?
No. So banking is federally regulated. Okay. The practice of mortgage brokering is provincially regulated.
Okay.
So in the past, it was always like, okay, well, if I send it to Scotiabank, that's a federally regulated bank, so they're doing all the due diligence and they're covering me. And in the last couple of years, they've made it really clear, or the regulators have made it really clear. In fact, there's this organization of the regulators. It's the Mortgage Broker Regulator Council of Canada, and they have a website, and you go in there and you say, where's the property, where's the buyer, where are you, and it tells you what license you need. And pretty much the gist of it is if the property is in another province, you need a license in that province. And if the buyer or if the borrower are from another province and the property's in your province, then you're probably covered. So, you know, it's
good. It's good, because yeah, the same thing applies here, right? You got a Ontario mortgage broker trying to help his Ontario buyers buy a property in Calgary, doesn't know how to do a deal, doesn't know what to expect, doesn't have the connections. Lots of litigation could come from that.
And a little bit different from the mortgage broker side, because they can get an Alberta mortgage broker to do all the compliance documents, and they're probably okay because they weren't really marketing in Alberta. But the problem for the realtors is they're marketing Alberta property, Alberta product, or Saskatchewan product, or Manitoba product, and that's where they're stepping on those boundaries, and they're going to get themselves in trouble. And I don't say that because I don't want them doing it. I just don't want a whole bunch of Ontario realtors getting upset or getting fined because they did something that they didn't realize they couldn't do. Right? Well, regulators are really bad at communication.
Speaking about boundaries and property lines, I think we would be remiss not to discuss the effects of what is going on out in the eastern part of the world right now, and its effects on Canada real estate. So, I mean, Russia's a major player. They're being sanctioned. They just got booted off the SWIFT payment system. Like, Ukraine is actually a big exporter of a lot of things too. This is going to have some pretty interesting implications. I see some people talking about it. I don't want to skirt around it. I don't want to be the Toronto Real Estate Show and just focus on like real estate today. I think this is major what's going on right now. And especially when you talk about Calgary with booms and busts, like there's going to be a major impact to Alberta from this. Right? Major. And I think possibly a positive one, because there's going to be a shortfall of oil and energy production, which, you know, I'm pretty sure Alberta has a decent amount of, right? They're like a huge exporter of wheat, both those countries. And I'm pretty sure I know a country that has a ton of wheat. and all kinds of other, products that Canada actually produces that are going to be in high demand and short supply for a while. But let's talk about this thing. What do you think is going to happen here near term, medium term, interest rate wise next week?
Yeah, so I think you've got two things, right? I mean, well, there's a lot to unpack there, and a lot
There's
of
a
different
lot. Sorry.
we could go to. I think first and foremost, you have to respect the fact that some really bad things are happening, and I think as an Albertan, one of the things that makes me the saddest is when you see Albertans jump on this and go, well, this is good for Alberta because oil prices are going to go up. And yeah, they're going to go up. But unfortunately, our oil's completely landlocked. Uh, it means higher prices. It means higher prices for us at the pump. It means higher prices for our American counterparts. And we do get a lot of oil into the US and a lot of energy into the US. But for the most part, the amount that we can export is the amount that we can export. So yeah, we're going to get a little bit of a bump from price, and that's going to add to some growth in the economy and so on and so forth. But with respect to oil itself, actually getting that to markets and exporting it is virtually impossible. I mean, there's a reason why most of Eastern Canada is powered by foreign oil products, right? It doesn't come from Canada. They bring it in. Actually, I've seen a bunch of stats on Facebook and everything else, and I don't know whether I'm paying attention to them or not, because I'm not sure if they're reliable sources, but it sounds like a pretty significant amount of oil comes from Russia and comes from Saudi Arabia into those eastern ports. So, we're gonna have a little bit of bump. There's only so much that we can produce right now, and we're probably at the capacity of that. So now wheat, grain, those can all easily get exported. So that's totally fine. That'll help our economy a little bit. But, the world is such a crazy place right now. And who knows what's going to happen with respect to how that plays out for our economy overall. And I don't think we want to be relying on the fact that our exports just got more attractive in any of our buying decisions or any of our mortgage decisions or anything else like that, because there's so much that could happen at the drop of a hat that would change our economy pretty fast. I mean, we talk about this on my channel all the time. It's like, what's the thing you weren't expecting? And lo and behold, we've been saying that for a year, and it's like, interest rates may not go up as fast as we expect because some surprise will happen. That's the one constant in economics, is surprises happen. And then lo and behold, here's Russia invading the Ukraine. So the biggest impact that it'll likely have is on a growth perspective in our economy. If the growth in our economy continues to be strong, then we see further higher interest rates. But I've also been reading some articles. Benjamin Tell, CIBC economist, really well-known guy, really phenomenal economist. He's talking about the fact that we've got massive amounts of interest rate sensitivity, and increases to interest rates could have a bigger impact than what we're expecting. And therefore, it's going to take longer to increase interest rates, which would be in line with what I've been saying in the research I've done, going back to the 1920s through to the let's call it 80s, as far as, let's call it 1940s to 50s, when interest rates were really low the last time they were really low in Canada. And then look at what happened in Japan when interest rates got really low. You get into what's called a liquidity trap, where changes to interest rates don't have a big impact, and you basically lose your ability to increase them or have major effects on the economy via the money supply. So, it's all like massive boring stuff, but the summary of all that is, we don't know what we don't know. And right now, a 1% increase over the next year is our best guess.
Yeah. And the devastation, I guess, that's happening in Ukraine, right, is, something to also look at too. So whether there is some prosperity in one part of the world or not, you've got devastation going on the other side of the ocean. And, everyone's got to look at that. Every war has caused massive inflation. Like, that's just the way it works. Supply crunches come, value of the dollar goes down, and prices continue to rise. We were already in, the highest inflation in 30 years, and now a war is coming, right? Like, it's such a perfect storm of a mess that is anybody's guess, right? Like, when was the last time everybody could predict a housing bubble on top of a global pandemic, on top of a world war? What's like what's that formula
with,
equal? Where's the
with a
textbook on that one?
with a stock market crash,
Yeah, where's the textbook on that one,
and
right?
there was no crypto market last time either that had
Exactly.
trillions of dollars in it.
Yeah.
I
This
mean, like I
is
said, surprises, right?
Yeah.
It's economics is all about trying to make your best predictions based on the information you have right now, and then going back and analyzing why you were wrong.
so in this environment, what do you think's going to happen next week with interest rates?
I think the Bank of Canada and the Federal Reserve both have to stay the course. I think they're going to increase by at least 25 basis points, and by stay the course, I mean they have to do what they say they were going to do. I think it probably took the prospects of a 0.5% increase off the table, but I think we're going to see that interest rate increase regardless. What's happening in the Ukraine right now, while it's a major world event, at this point doesn't have a major impact on our economy. Now, what that looks like 3-6 months down the road, let's hope we don't end up in a world war. But for right now, I think they somewhat need to stay the course. There's some jobs data that looked a little weak that could have an effect on that. But the big balancing act, right, the balancing act is between inflation and growth. It's like normally when you have massive amounts of inflation, you have excessive growth. Where we're just trying to get to is normal growth in the economy right now. And then we're going to start increasing interest rates to deal with the inflation problem. But if we start increasing interest rates and we have an effect on the growth, well, the Bank of Canada very much could be in a catch-22 where, they're basically killing growth in order to deal with inflation.
Stay off inflation.
It just kind of screws things up, right?
I don't
Wow,
envy
what
their
a
position.
mess. Yeah, what
I
a
don't
mess, eh?
I'm glad I'm not working for the Bank of Canada making any of those decisions. Not that they would ask me to anyways.
When the only
imagine,
good
though?
answer is to just stand back and watch it burn.
Yeah.
Right? Like what else can you do right now?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to be Tiff Macklem. Like, I had to take a break from doing these YouTube videos every single day because we're looking at bad, negative news all the time, and it's like, wow, like I don't want to ever talk about my mental health because that's never something that I ever wanted to address in myself. But like, wow, all this stuff happening, I don't even want to do videos on it. And then you've got guys like Tiff Macklem who are having to deal with this every day and make massive decisions that have major repercussions for people. It's not a position I'd want to be in.
The psychology right now. So for me, I'm not an economics expert, right? And I'm not here to predict. I don't have a crystal ball, but I deal with people. And so I understand people and I have to, read what people are telling me and I have to be able to, console them or advise them in the right way. And people are scared right now, right? People are scared right now of this turmoil in Europe. I had someone sell last week because of it. I've had nonstop appointments this week and people are talking about it. So whether there is an economic impact or not, like on the spreadsheets, it's going to have an impact on the markets just because of the fear that people have of what's going to happen.
Yeah, and the sad thing about that is people make really bad decisions when they're looking at the news and selling when they shouldn't be selling and buying when they shouldn't be buying. And the best thing I think average consumer can do is turn the freaking news off and do exactly what you need to do for yourself at that point in time. Take all the external factors out of it and just do what's right for you, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of noise. I don't even know how anybody knows what to trust and what to listen to. It's like there's 8 different opinions for everything at the touch of a finger. Like it's crazy. I don't know how anybody.
With social media, like think about the difference between like market predictions today compared to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, right?
No, but just movements and swings, like everything instantly. So everything just swings this way, right? Yeah. We're on Twitter and agents are like, there was 3 less showings on average in the Brampton area. Things are cooling down, right? And then you have people going, but hold on a sec. Up here in Aurora, it's like there's 80,000 showings and 8 million offers on this thing. And it just went $1 million over asking. This thing's heating up.
Yeah. I totally remember this line from Jon Stewart that stands out in my mind. It's like, just because it's hot today where you live doesn't mean global warming doesn't exist, right? It also doesn't mean that it does, but what's happening to you right now doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's going on in the broader economy. And I think that's where, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, that's where we make a lot of our mistakes. It's like, well, I didn't get an application today, so the market's slowing down. And it's like, well, is it actually, or did you just do a crappy job of promoting yourself for the last month?
Yeah, or
Right?
was there something wrong with the mail?
Well, the news this week is
or
mortgage applications are down, right? Like they're saying, oh, there's less mortgage applications. Well, yeah, there's been no inventory. Sales are down seasonally, like it's low. Like there's just less people doing stuff because of the market conditions. I'm sure there'd be lots of mortgage applications if there were houses for people to buy, right?
Yeah, and I mean the contrast to that is, and this is just my world. It's my weather on my day, but talking to my staff right now, everybody who applied in July, August, September of last year who didn't end up buying all of a sudden has contracts this week. So it's like applications may be down, but does that necessarily mean that buying activity is down? And, my little piece of data would say that, yeah, mortgage applications are down because all the people that were destined to buy at this point in time applied way back in August and July, right?
Right. Yeah. Like how were
perspective,
those months in comparison to normal? Like those were probably crazy.
Yeah, totally.
It's also disheartening right now when people think about pricing, right? Like you don't really want to go and do a mortgage application when you know that you can't afford the house that you want. It's not very motivating to go out there and look for a mortgage.
I don't know if I'd want to hear what I could get right now.
Yeah. I mean, tell me about that in your guys' market in Ontario. Like I get the comments on the YouTube channel and they go, hey, like we can't even afford to buy a home. But, most first-time home buyers don't buy the average home in a market. They start lower, right? It's like I don't buy the average Porsche when I go to buy my first car. What's going on with the first-time home buyers out there? Is there still product on the entry level, like the one-bedroom condos, the townhouses that they can buy and that they can afford? Or
yeah, they're starting to really
they don't want that though.
They're really starting to love the idea of sleeping on a pad on top of the kitchen table because there's no room for a bed. It's like 280 square feet for a studio here now.
There's a few of those. There's not many. There was a period of time a few years back where we thought we needed these micro units, so the developers were building them, but those are all off the table from what I know in the pre-construction world.
Not downtown Toronto, man.
They're still putting those in the plans.
For sure, you have to. That's how you get your investors and get people to pay $2,200 a foot because it's 280 square feet.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's insane. But I mean, in Toronto, if you wanna buy a townhouse or a semi or an entry level bungalow, you're over $1 million, right? Or you're in a destitute piece of garbage that needs so much work it should probably be condemned. It like the prices are the average is $1 million, right? Yeah, like overall. So your average single family house is like 1.7, 1.6, 1.8 right now. That's bananas. Meanwhile,
so if you weren't in the market, you are effectively priced out.
I don't know how people are doing it.
There's parents, the people who are getting in they've got parents helping them. There's also this huge, I've been dealing with so many people who have incredible wealth, regular average Joes, blue collar jobs, work there 40 hours a week, making their however much money a year. But they bought a property here, then they bought another one, then a cottage, and then they said, oh, I'll buy this condo. And over the last 10, 20 years, however long it's been, they've accumulated millions of dollars in real estate, and now they're ready to retire. This is a huge segment of the population. It's incredible just how many I've been exposed to over the last little while, just because they're all thinking now that, well, the market's this, so let's start talking to realtors.
There's a lot of Lambos. A lot of Lambos around here.
No, they got kids. They're already making their plan. How do I help my kids who are in their 20s get the property that they want?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, they're refinancing or selling their houses in order to, help the kids out and maybe downsize or right size a little. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how your average typical person can afford anything but rent or moving to Bancroft. Which Bancroft,
which is a couple
Bancroft
hours
is,
outside of Toronto. It's like a cottage country.
but the reason I
just so
say
you know.
Bancroft is because
Yeah.
it went up 95% this year on average in Bancroft.
Yeah.
95.
Yeah,
And
long
that's
time.
not, maybe it's 94. Maybe
And it's
I
like the
embellished a
smallest
little.
cottage country town like ever. It's not a place to go and work. Like there's no jobs there. In the winter, everything just sort of shuts down.
Yeah.
Now, is it as common in Alberta? Because I imagine that you still got a huge business in Alberta. I know you're doing other provinces, but I imagine the bulk of it's in Alberta, correct?
I bet that swung lately.
Yeah.
Since YouTube swung that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Either way, in Alberta, is it as common that the mom and dad, like biggest private lender in Canada, Bank of Mom and Dad, right? Is that still as common, or is it not as necessary in Alberta?
Yeah, no, it's totally been that way, right? And that's common and has been for a long time. I think the only thing that's making it more apparent is the sheer amount of equity that's available in markets like yours, and that pull it off a line of credit and gift it to your kids thing is something that's become significantly more common. But I think just as the values go up, the gift sizes go up.
They have to.
Co-signers, gifts,
Yeah. Guarantor.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Second
fairly
mortgage.
common. It's just scale, right? It's just everything's gotten bigger. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. What like your YouTube experience, right? Like you were doing mortgages, you got onto YouTube, right? How did you get to the point where you're at right now with all this? I think you're very good at it. You got really great video editing skills and all that kind of stuff. Like what was that path to kind of get there?
Yeah, I mean, really interesting. Sheer relentlessness, right? I've learned in life that if you can push yourself past the limit of that moment where you want to quit, you can get pretty much anywhere you want to go. I mean, getting high numbers on YouTube, getting big Instagram followers, becoming Grant Cardone is all about just pushing yourself past the limit of what you think is possible. So, yeah, I mean, that YouTube journey kind of started about 5 years ago, and exact same studio with a whiteboard, couple of videos that I didn't even realize after I posted them got 5 or 10,000 views, interest rate differential videos. And then from there, it kind of became a thing where we sporadically did videos, wasn't totally invested in it. And then when the pandemic hit, everybody was trying to figure out how to get their deferrals figured out. And I have 9,000 clients in my database. So that morning of like March 13th, we're waking up to our phones ringing and everyone's like, how do I do this deferral thing? And we just had more phone calls than we had capacity. Like my wife's one of the top mortgage brokers in the country. We're sitting at our desks at 7 a.m. and, I was pouring her a glass of wine at 11 p.m. and we hadn't moved basically for the entire day. Oh, and by the way, we're homeschooling our child, which was basically him watching YouTube so that we could do our jobs. And
Amen.
yeah, exactly. And the teachers are like, why aren't you homeschooling him? Why aren't you teaching him all this stuff? And it's like, because that's your job. What are you doing for the other 8 hours of a day? But that's beside the point. And so we're just like, okay, we need a way to get this information out really quickly. So we did a video on how to defer your mortgage. And, YouTube always picks up like that news story, whether it was a mortgage change or whether it was something else. And they just picked that video up and it went like through the roof. And we did a few more. That was kind of in April, May, and YouTube was I could tell was kind of poking me going, you need to do more videos. You need to do more videos. It's like you get a notification. They're like, this video is doing really well. And I kind of ignored it because it was golf season. I'm a golfer.
Daryl?
And
We don't know what that is. We
don't get those
done
notifications. They're like,
No.
guys, come on, slow it down a little bit here.
Can
all
you
right. You
guys
put one out,
stop?
there's only 300 views.
Yeah. Stop posting. You're wasting our server space.
Yeah.
Too funny. I don't think that's true. I think you guys have had some pretty good success, especially the last month or so. You've had a few videos blow up, right? And it's happening again. Real estate's becoming a hot topic. Steve Koresh out in Vancouver had a video he put out 2 days ago. He had one he put out 4 days ago. He's like, I got 1,000 views in the first hour, and he's all excited. And then now he has a video 43,000 views as of last night in the first 24 hours. And
Amazing.
like that outperforms any video he's ever done in his lifetime and he did it in a 24-hour period. So YouTube's starting to pick up those good videos again. And, you know, they did the same thing for me. And then in December of 2020, I just said, you know what, I'm going to do one every business day for the entire month. And then that kind of showed YouTube that I was serious. And that was the message I was trying to send their algorithm. And it just picked up, got to 1,000 subscribers. And then as soon as it got to 1,000 subscribers, I just stayed on the gas pedal. And then it was 10,000, and then it was 20,000. And now I think I'm at like 22,000, and I'm pulling my foot off the gas pedal because my team is just like, okay, you need to stop or you need to hire 10 more people. And the last thing I want to do is hire 10 more people and then have to fire 10 more people because the market turns or something like that. So we've actually, it's actually gotten interesting, like investment properties for non-clients, our system filters them out automatically right now. So like if an Ontario buyer wants to come into Alberta and buy an investment property, we automatically filter that out. We don't do that deal because they're difficult and, you know,
You'll be shopping around a bunch of different people. It's like waste your time. It's
yeah,
you never know.
exactly.
Yeah.
All sorts of different things, but just, you know, we've turned off certain things because of how effective YouTube's become.
Wow, good for you.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And
That is amazing.
We're all about just like education, right? It's like we're always just trying to like follow the news. We're always looking to stuff. So lately, like we've been talking a lot about you know, this like federal government stuff, right? Even though we're the Toronto real estate show, that people get bored of the Toronto real estate topics, right? So like we talk about federal government policies. So interest rates are obviously a big thing. The province has got a housing plan of action where they were talking about how they're going to basically increase supply. Like, do you think we have a supply issue? Or do you think that we have just too much demand right now and that we've got enough houses being built in the pipeline and that we're going to be okay? We just got to let the market do its thing.
yeah, it's a tough question. I mean, so I went to university and I studied this stuff, and the reality of it is we won't know until 5 years down the road if it was a demand problem or a supply problem. Like right now, because we have so much demand, we therefore have a supply problem. But the question is, do we really have that much of a supply problem? Like if memory serves me correctly, February of 2020, we didn't really have a supply problem. And we didn't really have a ton of people moving around the last 2 years, from as far as like people moving and coming from other countries. Like we had interprovincial migration, but we didn't have a ton of net migration overall. So if we have the same amount of people, why do we all of a sudden have a supply problem? Like
I
that's
think
just
it feels way different in Toronto, like for us, because there's 130 cranes in the air. There's everything is blocked off. It's construction. It's like new crazy all over the place. And everybody, like literally everybody, is talking about real estate all the time here. I don't know if it's like that in Calgary.
Well, I mean, it's not right now. I mean, there's a ton of building,
Canadian thing,
a ton of buyers, right? It's a Canadian thing. But I mean, my question is if everyone's talking about it and there's all these cranes and everything going on in Toronto, well, have you also seen a ton of new immigrants?
I personally haven't met any.
It's hard to tell who is newer than who, but there are definitely a lot of immigrants. But I mean, the numbers are, I mean, obviously with airports shut and borders closed, we know they've transferred, you know, numbers from one side of a ledger to the other for the most part, I guess, of the last couple of years. But I mean, with their targets, I mean, barring anybody thinking that this country is not safe to come to anymore, which I can't imagine why anyone would think that lately. But imagining that people are still willing to come to Canada, and the immigration seems loose. And I believe that even if we let in 400,000 a year, like there's still a significant backlog of people that want to come, at least at the moment. Like we will feel this at some point.
Oh yeah, and don't get me wrong, like we are absolutely going to have more immigration into Canada going forward because people are going to realize more than ever that Canada is a really good place to be in a place like in a time like a pandemic, right? Like I'd rather have Canadian healthcare than healthcare from whatever country, pick a country in the world. It doesn't matter if it's the US or anywhere else. Like the healthcare here is phenomenal. So we're definitely going to have more net migration in the future. But if you just look at like the last 2 years and you say migration's probably gone down, but all of a sudden we have this massive supply issue, it doesn't make sense. It's like there aren't more people, but there's less houses available. So what that tells me is that we've got more of a demand issue than a supply issue. Now, preferences may have changed. We may not have supply in a specific type of property, and that may be a valid argument, but like enough supply to house typical Canadians, yeah, we've got it. Like people, for the most part, if they didn't have an idealistic view of the house that they needed to live in, we've got a roof to put over their head somewhere, right? And I think the building happening in Toronto and everywhere else needs to happen because we are going to have an influx of migration. But I think the last 2 years of run up in price is more about changes in preferences, and in the last 6 to 8 months, probably more about
Increase in money supply, no?
yeah, increase in money supply, for sure, but mania around real estate too, right?
Yes.
I-
Psychological impact of the money supply and the pandemic needs, where I want bigger space and I want to, I'm worried about inflation and, I want to put my money into real estate. That is by far the overall always the number one contributor, because we've had these exact same circumstances before: low interest rates, high immigration, good job market, and the market wasn't going like it was because everyone thought, ooh, maybe now's not a good time to buy, right?
Right.
When we
Yeah.
had the BC and Ontario foreign buyers tax implemented, that really changed people's psychology on what they felt about real estate, right?
Sure.
So psychology is number one, 100%.
What
Yeah.
about does your office, do you guys work in an office or is everybody working from home? Are you a hybrid?
So my team largely goes into the office right now. A couple work from home. It really comes down to what they prefer. And I mean, for me, what I realized was for going half an hour each way for a commute, and I know that's a short commute from the world you guys live in, but getting that hour back a day was like getting 3 hours worth of work back a day, which led to basically a round of golf every day in the summer. And that
not more work.
yeah, like this studio, this is my home studio. I spend most of my time here. I'm in the office a couple of days a week when I have to work with my staff and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I think different people need to be in different roles and in different locations, and some people work better from an office and some people work better from home. So we do
Have
have
we
hybrid.
have we seen a big shift in Calgary with work from home, or has it shifted back? Or
I would say there's some shift back to work in the office place, but for the majority of people, I think if they have the option, they're working from home.
Like I know, because my sister lives in Alberta, like I feel like Alberta has been the like resistance province for a lot of the changes over the last little while, right? Like they were just a little bit more vocal. The premier was a little bit more, vocal. How is that changing now? Are they still
Yeah. I
pushing
mean, let me
for
preface
normal
the
life?
whole thing with I'm politically agnostic. Like when it comes to politics, I don't care. There's good policy decisions and bad ones, and all parties make good decisions and bad decisions. I think everything you just stated there, the evidence of that is that a whole bunch of people driving trucks showed up on your guys' front doorstep in Ottawa here in the last month. I think that's pretty evident that that some of Alberta definitely lives on that fringe of politics for sure. Um, I think Alberta is kind of a changing place as we see people moving in from other provinces, especially like Edmonton. You've got a pretty big NDP base in Edmonton, which is really surprising because it's very very much a blue collar, sorry, not blue collar, but a blue conservative blue city for the last, 100 years or whatever it is. Um, I think it's interesting. I agree with some of the stuff with removing mandates. I disagree with other parts. Everyone's got their personal opinion on that stuff, but yeah, I think we probably, as a general rule, lean towards more leniency on those policies and whatnot.
Yep, we love you guys for it. No doubt about it, right? Somebody's got to say something. So I think with we had all these lockdowns, we had impact, like we had a major boom in January, major, like it was just through the moon, and everybody was sitting at home, and everybody was on lockdown, and you couldn't go to, not lockdown, but you couldn't go to the movies, the restaurants, the gyms, like there was all the things that you would want to go out for. And so all these people went out and started looking at properties. And so we were getting 35,000 showings a day in the Toronto Real Estate Board based on the analytics we have. And that dropped down to 9,000 once the lockdown was lifted.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like
That's
a
the one thing we
75%
noticed.
decrease.
Wow, I
Yeah.
didn't know that. That's crazy. So,
Yeah.
but hold on a sec. That's a decrease in showings.
Showings. Yeah. The volume of people that were going out to look at houses dropped drastically.
But what about offers? Did
Yes, offers too. Yeah.
offers drop
The
too?
numbers game. Yeah. Prices have remained stable, increasing in most areas. There might be a few one-offs that did really well in January that could have a hard time getting back to that. But, prices are still there for sure.
Yeah.
Aren't there quite
That's
a
one
few?
thing we did. Oh,
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's like the thing we noticed every time there was a lockdown. It's like you get, husbands and wives who realize their houses are too small because they don't like being on opposite sides of the small house, right? And then you get parents who don't want to deal with their kids being at home, and the kids get tired of dealing with having to live with their parents, and the kids go to apply for a mortgage, and we go, well, sorry, you don't qualify, and you have a cosigner, and their parents are like, yeah, we'll cosign for them. They can't get on that mortgage fast enough to get them the heck out of the house, right? Like, as you get stuck at home, you start to realize that your living conditions aren't necessarily what you imagined you want them to be, right?
Yeah, I'll cosign, and here's 250. Go.
Yeah, exactly. Get out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the expression is that they'd rather leave their inheritance, or they'd rather give their inheritance with warm hands instead
Warm
of cold ones.
handshake. Yeah, warm handshake.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they're trying to make sure that their kids, know, like, let's witness what it is that you are going to achieve, and try to help them and stuff. And they're screwed. Like, let's face it. How the heck, even in Alberta, I know Alberta's got like one of the highest incomes in Canada, but like even in Alberta, like an average home entry level, what does that cost? Like if you look
like
at Calgary, downtown Calgary,
485, 500. Yeah.
500,000, right? So still,
What?
like
An
I bought my
average
first house for
house?
240.
House? Oh,
Yeah.
house, not a condo.
That's a house.
That's a house.
For
Yeah.
$500,000.
Yeah. I can't remember
And
what the average price is right
Are
now.
wages
That's
wages
okay.
similar there? Are the wages the same as here?
Well,
How can
in
they
some
not be?
cases, in some cases higher.
Yeah.
Average income buys a pretty average house, no problem in Alberta.
EK, what the fuck are we doing here?
We should be the Calgary
bigger
real estate
than the
show.
house.
Calgary real estate show.
Yeah, we should go to Calgary.
This
But
is
even still,
stupid.
500,000 is still, it's not like it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, even in the GTA, you could get really affordable housing. You can buy a house for 200,000-300,000, no
So
problem.
hold on a sec. So 2 years ago, was that house like 250?
No, it was about 450. We didn't see the same run-ups you guys saw.
Yeah.
We're starting to see them now because people are making really poor investment decisions, coming out here and buying properties, not understanding our market. But
Yeah.
Now it's getting a little bit crazy. But yeah, we haven't seen that run up yet. We'll probably see, I would guess, a 15 to a 20% run up this year. And then we'll get up in that 600, 650 range would be my guess.
You guys have a commercial mortgage division?
No.
Okay, so you deal with the residential stuff.
Yeah,
hold on a sec. This pricing action here, does it go up and then it like crashes because the oil prices crash, or it just doesn't, like, I don't get it. We had 30% last year, 20 something percent the year before. It's like 8%'s a shitty year around here. Things have doubled in 2 years here, literally. They've like tripled in 10 years or less. And you guys went from 450 to 500?
Yeah, well, I mean, I also bought gas in April of 2020 for 47 cents a liter. And that's the primary driver of my economy.
Is that like right off of the rig? Like they pump it right into your truck at that price?
Pretty much, yeah.
Holy cow, that's crazy.
Yeah, the
But
Calgary market's so funny. Like I've talked to agents out there, and
It's-
it is in every way it is different than the Ontario market. Like in every way, from the real
Sounds
estate
like a
agent
different
side
country.
to the listing side to the buying process to pricing to the appreciation investments. And there's a lot of people going and buying these commercial multifamily buildings now in Alberta and other parts of other Edmonton and other parts of Alberta.
Yeah,
And
and this is where the logic's this
they
is where
know
the
nothing.
logic's flawed, right? It's like
Yeah.
Toronto housing prices have gone up, Vancouver's gone up, Calgary's haven't. They have to come up. It's like, well, that's like saying that, Manhattan prices went up, so Ohio's have to go up. They're completely different markets, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You don't understand the idiosyncrasies of those markets, you can really get yourself in trouble really fast.
100%. 100%.
Wow. And that's
It
so
becomes the only
different.
place that's affordable, right? So they can't find the numbers anywhere else. So I will predict you'll hear it here first. Okay. Alberta's market is going to get run up by a bunch of Ontario buyers who will be
Mhm.
left holding the bag in the next few years. And it won't happen again for at least another 20 years. They'll all back away and say, oh, okay, never mind. We learned our lesson. They're all new investors, right?
And let me put this in perspective. 2006, there were properties bought at the top of the market, top of an oil boom. And in 2022, and we're talking condos in this case, there were properties that had not come back to the level that they were bought for in 2006. That's 14 to 16 years where you were underwater.
We should not count Alberta in the national averages because they're weighing us down.
We should not count Toronto and Vancouver in the national averages.
You're pulling us up.
Canadian.
Yeah.
Like those markets are, I would say it's more to say that those markets aren't Canadian real estate markets. Like those are international markets, and the rest of Canada is Canadian markets.
That's a good point.
What a crazy, I never even thought of it. There's like a pull here because we're fucking them up and we think they're kind of slowing us down.
We deal with this. We deal with this on like the micro level, just in the GTA, where people like, for example, Barrie, right? So Barrie, they had like 80% annual increases. Daryl mentioned Bancroft. There's a few other communities like that. And even they are talking about the dumb money that came in and bought their real estate and overpaid was from Toronto, right? Yeah. So it's all the same. Just no matter what, you go from Toronto to anywhere else, it's a different market, and they use their local realtors to do the deal, and the guy just wants to make his commission and they overpay. That's just how it is.
So I know like there's quite a few Toronto developers that have projects in Calgary. Mm-hmm. What the hell are they doing there? If this is the I guess they must have bought it just for so cheap. But these numbers, like I don't know how a Toronto guy's making sense of this. No appreciation. You mean I'm gonna build this thing for 6 years and there won't be any appreciation in the price? How do you do that?
Well, that's an important distinction to make. So when somebody goes and buys, like an individual buys a pre-construction property as an investment, not necessarily as a place to live, but as an investment, they're buying it as speculators. Like they might not like to be called that, but they're speculating that value of that property is going to go up. A developer, on the other hand, is not a speculator, right? A developer is going, okay, here's the statistics for this market. Here's the job growth. Here's the amount of properties that are going to need. Here's the net migration numbers. Here's my potential issues that I'm going to have if oil prices turn or if something happens in the economy. And then they go, and then here's the cost for me to build this and what I think I can sell it for. And then they've got a profit margin built in. So they're not speculating, they're developing, and they've got some play. Versus, when an individual is buying and they're going, well, we need the values to go up between now and when this property gets built. That's a different story, right? That's the speculation, and that's what gets good people in trouble, because they go, oh, can't go anywhere but up. And I remember a lot of people in 2007 buying properties thinking they couldn't go up, and then calling us for mortgages, and us going, well, I can't finance that. You bought it for 400 and it's worth 2. right?
Mhm.
So developing's a lot different game as far as how they run their numbers versus how a real estate investor or speculator, as a better definition, would do it, right?
So I'm a developer, and when I buy a property, I look at it with today's numbers. So what I can sell it for today and what the construction costs are and everything is today. But if I don't be realistic and I don't factor in, I mean, even in a normal setting, there is some inflation every single year. So you have to have some line item in there for increased construction costs. And if you only do that, it's not a very realistic scenario. You have to hope for some kind of appreciation. But it sounds like in Calgary, like you cannot do that. But the construction costs, I imagine, are going up significantly like the rest of the country as well, if not more.
Oh yeah, totally.
So that's
I
like,
think
it's like a real pickle. I guess, I mean, you just like any market, you have to just really know it. But I don't know why a Toronto guy would be, enticed to go over there other than like a mania, like you're saying before. Is like they get caught up in holy shit, like these things are selling like
Developers are
hotcakes
human.
there.
They do the same thing, right? Developers.
Yeah.
How many developers have dropped the ball, right?
Look, if
Well,
you
and
can
that's the one.
raise the funds, right? If you can find the land and raise the funds, most of them
Yeah.
are fee driven at the beginning anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the ones that go out of business the fastest are the ones who relied on appreciation to make the profits, right? Like
Yeah.
it's when you're building a home, we know lots of home builders, lots of developers, and I've asked this specific question. One of the really big residential developers in Calgary, the CFO, is a guy that I golf with on a regular basis, and like they knew when they were putting up a building, they're like, we got 32% to play with. So like between what we're expecting to sell it at and what it
Yeah.
costs us to build it today, we've got a 32% margin. And if it appreciates, the appreciation was the bonus. And if the property values went down, they knew that they still had a pretty significant amount of play in the amount of profit that they had.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the way that banks underwrite Alberta properties that I look at is a lot different than they do in Ontario. And so when guys are looking at these commercial buildings, they're underwriting them with like, lower loan to value, higher cap rates, higher vacancy rates. Like, they're factoring that in. So they know the market. That's what you said, Daryl. These guys, they've done their research. They know the market. They've built in the contingencies. How many developers in Toronto have got a 32% margin built in? Zero.
Yeah, maybe no. We all start off with 32%,
Okay.
maybe even more. And then
Yeah.
it's like you start
It
getting
doesn't,
in
they're
some
not
quotes
golfing
and-
talking about a
yeah.
32% margin in there. They're just
No.
like, we're going to end up with 15 and this is going to be a winner, Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, I mean, if you look
We
at
could
like
only
shovel in the ground last year, they not only did they have a 32% margin, but they had another 20 or 30% on their increases in values, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Market
Right.
timing, like which they couldn't have predicted. Right. But yeah, in Ontario, it's much less profitable to be in the development world. It's just the way it is. Right.
I mean, and the big guys, they aren't trying to time the market. They
don't give a shit. They
time
just
the
buy. They don't give a shit.
They know their numbers. They know it costs $4,000 to build that kitchen, and that kitchen to them has $20,000 worth of value, right? Like they know their numbers.
A mentor of mine once said that, and I've said it up probably 10 times on the show, but the market made us geniuses, right? Just being in it, right? And they look brilliant.
Market makes you a genius for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Until
being able to stay
dun,
in
dun,
it.
dun.
Well, if you can stay in it when it's shit, then just being in it, you're still a genius.
Yeah, that's the secret with all these Ontario guys is how many of them will be able to just ride it out like those 2006 condo buyers you were mentioning. How many of them can ride out whatever changes are going to happen? And that's, I guess, what the formula is. And we're getting, you would know this more, we're getting a lot of people, like there's a lot of people on Instagram and YouTube or whatever, just saying, how to suck out the equity of your home and put it into another investment property. And there's no risks and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of people who are successful with that strategy, but majority of people should never do that. Majority of people should be,
It becomes really easy to sell course material on investment properties in a market like this.
Oh yeah, I'll
and
bet.
The crazy thing is if the number, like properties aren't cash flowing, you aren't break even on a property, but you got guys that are selling courses that are making millions of dollars selling courses. Like there's a reason I have a real estate investment course that I can sell on my YouTube channel, but it is not available. And there's a reason. It's because anybody who would take it, who goes and actually makes an investment property decision right now in this market, is probably setting themselves up for failure. I mean, you're buying in speculative mania in the face of higher interest rates with, I mean, it's not even arguable, the most amount of uncertainty in the worldwide economy that we've ever seen in my lifetime, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I was saying to somebody the other day, it's like it's the only market where everybody that's in it and is selling, all the salespeople are nervous and wanting things to slow down. Like you would never see that in any other marketplace where the salespeople are like, this is too crazy.
Yeah.
We gotta slow this thing down, or this is
I
gonna
want it to be a little bit
explode.
more difficult to sell these places.
Yeah,
you know?
don't sell
Let's take it a
any
little
more
bit longer.
gadgets. Yeah, it's crazy. It's
you
crazy.
guys know the realtor's prayer?
Tell me.
Dear Lord, please give me one more booming market, and I promise not to blow it this time.
Yeah,
A good one.
It's interesting to say the least. I feel like there's really the exact same thing going on across the world. I don't think it's Calgary. I don't think it's Toronto. I don't think it's US or Europe. I think there's massive inflation. There's massive demand out there. Interest rates are low everywhere. People are confident in real estate. They're worried about holding on to their cash. It's the perfect storm of like New Zealand. Look at New Zealand. New Zealand's got a ton of problems, even bigger than ours. We've got a lot of, things that are going to be really interesting to watch over the next couple of years. And I'm nervous. I'd be lying if I say I wasn't. And there's a lot of people out there who are fearless and they go on and they could be right, and good for them. I hope they're right. And I hope they're very successful and they go, but there's a lot of over leveraged people out there right now doing things that would make the wiser segment of the population very, very scared, right? Knowing the numbers that I'm hearing about. Yeah.
100%.
It's pretty bananas. Okay, I have two quick questions for you, and then we're going to end the show because this is generally about an hour. Okay, one thing that I've been wondering about forever, what does the sticker on your cup say? Because it's always, is it a blurry sticker?
No, so that's funny. That's like the number one comment. It's like, what does it say? So this is our company
Blurry.
mantra. Let's see. It says, we take awesome seriously.
Take awesome seriously. Nice.
And we've got your back.
There you go. I've been wondering that for a while. And then the other question I had in my head about Albertans, Albertians, Albertonians, how, and I know you don't speak for all of them, but how do people in Alberta feel about Tesla?
Oh God. Yeah, I there's a lot of guys that drive Teslas, but they're also gas powered, right? In Alberta, a Tesla is a gas powered vehicle.
Gas powered vehicle.
Yeah.
Everywhere it is. But
explain the Tesla. Explain
how
the
do you
Tesla
make the
being
electricity?
Yeah. I mean, I think they have a phenomenal vehicle, and if you want to get into like a conversation about Tesla, it's really interesting because that's not a car company, right? Tesla's a data company, and they're going to change the world, not from necessarily from an electric car standpoint, but from like a driving automation standpoint. And that's what I think is really exciting about Tesla. But I mean, the reality of it is like if you're driving in Ontario, it's hydro powered. If you are driving it in Alberta, it's gas powered. And at the end of the day, a car is a car. Thing I don't like about it being living in Alberta is if I want to drive to, actually, this is funny. I was a keynote speaker in Edmonton, and some guys who have a Tesla drove up from Calgary, and it's a 3-hour drive. And at the end of the conference 2 weeks ago, we go and have a drink, and I leave Edmonton at 8 p.m. and they leave at the exact same time. And at midnight, they were still on the road because they had to stop and charge the car twice. So for Alberta,
how long was the drive?
It's a 3-hour drive.
How many kilometers?
It's a 4-hour drive in a Tesla.
Yeah, but it should have like a 700 kilometer charge, no?
But when you drive it up in the morning and you don't
Oh,
have it
and you
fully
don't charge it. Yeah.
Yeah.
you
It's not a road trip
forget-
vehicle, if you ask me.
Hmm.
I forgot to plug my. It's like every once in a while I forget to plug this thing in my phone, right?
That's the end of the world.
So I don't know. Tesla's interesting. I don't think Calgary's or Albertans have any sort of aversion to them unless they're like super conservative right wing oil guys. Now,
That's what
I got a challenge for you guys, and I got a question for you guys.
Ooh.
My question for you guys is, why is Africa in your background? And
Good question.
on that note,
Yep.
why isn't it the Canadian real estate show?
Oh,
This has
right
come
now-
up a few times.
Canada needs more voices of reason. And what I like about you guys, and I don't do a ton of these shows because every once in a while, like you get somebody who's got some sort of motivation, and they're motivated to sell houses in their market, and they're pumping their market. And you guys are just like straight up honest about the market, and the whole country needs more of what you guys are talking about. And I get that when as a realtor, and by the way, I used to run a real estate company, so I think about this stuff a lot, and I've thought about this stuff a lot. Like, you want to have that Toronto real estate show because that's the market you're in and that's the market you're serving. But you guys, with the amount of knowledge you have and the honesty and integrity that you guys have, you could do this show across Canada. You're going to have just as much business coming out of Toronto because people are going to be watching your show anyways. But the country needs more guys like you talking about what's going on across the country, not just in your market.
We've
Wow.
had this conversation, Nolan.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for saying that. We're definitely like hyped up about what we do, and that's everything you said there is 100%
nice.
true. We just like to talk and share stuff, and we try to bring on guests who like to talk and share stuff as well. We've talked about it several times. First and foremost, we are going to change the African continent background because that is important. Daryl, we'll talk to our background guy. All right, we'll send him an email. And yeah, I mean, the Canadian real estate show, we've discussed it already. We've been we hesitant to make any changes because things are going well in our eyes. But thanks for your feedback. We trust you. Like I said, you're the professional YouTuber that we aspire to be like. So we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't call it professional, but I think I can tell you one thing is if you change it to the Canadian real estate show, you get a lot broader audience, and you'd still sell way more houses, but that growth and getting your guys' message out would be significantly more impactful because you'd have significantly more people looking at it.
Awesome. All right. Let's bring that up in the
point.
next business meeting, Daryl.
Yes,
I think that's a great point that we need to talk about again.
I will invite the entire board of directors.
Bring the staff. Yep.
Right.
Good.
Bring all the staff.
Notify
out.
the shareholders.
Tell everybody
Awesome.
we're moving to Calgary.
Because it's the end of the show, Nolan, just give us a quick little plug. I know that a lot of our listeners do know where you are and what your channel is, but just let people who don't know you know where to find you.
Yeah, just I'm sure there'll be a link in the description below. Best place to find me is on the YouTube channel or mortgage360.ca.
Awesome. Yeah, we've got a lot of Spotify listeners too. We do a lot of the podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all that kind of stuff. So
look at this, $437 trillion lent to Canadians already.
Trillion. That number's out about
800 million.
Yeah.
We did almost half of that last year.
Oh my God. Are you
Awesome,
serious?
awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
You guys asked about the YouTube thing. We probably did more business in BC and Ontario than we did in Alberta last year, and our Alberta business grew too.
Yeah, great.
And like, we're small and mighty. 4 people work for me, and they do. I would bet that you'd be hard to find. It would be hard to find a company that does the amount of production per person that we do in Canada. I know there's a couple of them, but yeah, I've got 4 powerhouse females that work for me, and they are absolutely phenomenal.
There's the secret sauce right there.
Like
Females.
Yep.
Good.
Each
one of them is a top 100 broker in the country.
Wow. Amazing.
Awesome.
Well,
Well,
it's
thanks for
fantastic to meet you. Yeah. Thank you
great,
so much
great
for
talking
coming.
to you. We appreciate the advice too. And I know it's early there.
It's early there. Yeah.
Hope you have a nice Sunday.
After the hockey game last night, that was a difficult morning, but we made it through.
There you go.
Awesome. Well,
There's
thanks,
still
guys.
hockey. Thanks so much. Bye.